Let's be honest, it seems like every market in woodworking is just overly saturated.
There are too many of them. What are we going to do?
So today, I'm going to show you 5 projects that will have you standing out amongst the rest. And with this lineup, you'll be sure to get those sales. Let's go. Every time we get close to those fall markets coming around, I tend to focus on the smalls. Quick, easy, and cost effective. I'll need to make a jig for our first project. I've got my miter spline jig and I just spun it around the opposite direction, and I'll be using a 2x6 on the flat, and I'll make a mark with a 45-degree angle, and from that mark I'll pull over to 3.5 inches and mark that the opposite way, cutting out a triangle. Now I won't need all of the width of this board, so once I get this triangle cut, I'll pull over to 4 inches and get this ripped. Once I get it ripped, I'll glue it up to my miter spline jig, but I'll leave a 1/4 inch space from the bottom, that way it doesn't catch while I'm trying to make my cuts. One of the most overlooked niches in my area is back to school projects.
Oh, back to school.
While we let that dry, let's take a look at project number 1. We're going to be making these awesome little apples, and there's a variety of ways that you can make these. But first, we're going to need to pick up a few things from the big box store. I'm going to grab a Douglas fir 4x4, some 2.5 inch cut nails, and you're going to want to pick up some red and green paint. I've already got some on hand, and I got some of this acrylic paint, which is really good for these type of projects. And you'll need a brush to brush it on with, or you can go the spray paint route. I'm about $24.75 in on this project so far in cost, and we'll just keep that number in the back of our mind for now. And let's get started. I'll start by getting a piece cut to 3.5. That way I'm left with 3.5 by 3.5 by 3.5. And on our 4x4, on just one side here, we'll pull in at about 1 inch from one side. Just make a little reference mark. I'm going to turn the bevel of my table saw to 30 degrees. And now that our jig is dry, we'll set that on our fence. Set our 4x4 right in that jig we made earlier. We'll raise our blade to about 1.5 inches and move our fence over and line up our mark we made at that 1 inch with the inside of the kerf of our blade. And while holding down pressure on our 4x4 and pushing our jig at the same time, we'll make these cuts on all 8 corners of this 4x4. Let me demonstrate. While I'm getting this cut, I've got a favor to ask. Head down below and hit that thumbs up button and hit subscribe. Make sure to smack that bell so you're notified for weekly woodworking content. It's absolutely free and it really helps the channel. Once you get all 8 of your corners cut, go ahead and mark the very center at your top. Punch those intersecting points. And with my 3/4 inch Forstner bit, I'm going to drill down about 5/8 of an inch. And over here at the router table, I've installed a chamfer bit, and I'm going to chamfer the top of that hole just to smooth it over. Next, I'll go ahead and get all my edges smoothed over with some 220 grit sandpaper. I'll get rid of all that dust to make sure I have a clean surface. And now for the fun part. I'm going to paint this one red. Ooh. About 80% of the projects that I do for back to school go to parents who are homeschooling their kids. And typically they have a designated area where they like to put a lot of decor to make it feel like a classroom. And we'll set this to the side and let it dry. All right. And you definitely want to wash out your brush if you plan on reusing it with this acrylic paint. And I want to show you a quick little trick that a painter showed me once. Once your brush is wet and washed out, instead of flicking it around to dry it out, check this out. How cool is that? All right, now that that's all dry, I'm going to take a 1/8 inch drill bit, and I've got this piece of fake leaf that I stole from one of my wife's fake plants. And I'm going to drill a hole about 1/4 inch deep right in the center of this other hole. I'm going to stick that down in there, and then I'll take the cut nail and put that right on top of that. Give that a couple of whacks down in there. That's not going anywhere. And that is how you make an awesome teacher's apple. So we said we're about 28 bucks in on the cost for this project. Well, I can get 27 of these made out of that one 4x4, that one box of cut nails, and that paint. As far as these little fake leaves, I'm not sure where you can find those. I just happened to get lucky and my wife had some laying around. But take 27 and I get anywhere from 8 to 10 bucks a pop for these guys. Especially if I add the personalization options with the laser engravers. Say a teacher's name, 10 times 27, that's 10x the profit. Another bestseller at my local markets are my keychains. Whether it's the bottle opener keychains, the pocket cross keychains, or the little minion keychains. I'm selling out no matter which one. But today, I've got a new one that I want to show you how to make. Let's go. For this next project, all you really need is a piece of scrap wood that's about 2 inches in width and about 5 inches long, and a jigsaw. The piece of scrap that I'm using is a 1/2 inch in width, so I think a 1/2 inch would be perfect for this piece. I think 3/4 might be a little bulky, but if that's all you have laying around, 3/4 is just fine. I'm going to lightly mark about 1.5 inches down my board, and I'm just going to make a couple of mountains just playing around with my speed square. I'll ultimately come down to about 1.25 inches and square that across, and that's where I'll be making the cut. I'll get this clamped and I'll get it cut out with the jigsaw. To get my length cut, I'll use my speed square as a guide. And it's that easy. I'll get everything sanded down with a little hand pad here. I'm going to get it taped off. That way I can spray paint the top of the mountains using the edge of the tape to form said mountains. I'll go ahead and tag this with some white spray paint. Once that's dry, I'll remove this tape, and I'm going to be using some mocha stain, and with the brush I'll stay about 1/4 inch away from the white paint, and I'll show you how we'll attack that. To get super close to my white, I'll use a knife edge and put some stain on it to get right up close to that white paint without going over it. And this actually works really well. And don't forget to put some stain on the bottom of your piece as well. Slap on your keychain hardware, and I'll leave a link for this in the description where you can get 100 pieces of keychain hardware for fairly cheap. And this is such a great project for your scrap wood pile, and these will go anywhere from $3 to $5 a pop all day long. There is currently over 4.8 billion people who own a smartphone. Don't take my word for it. You can Google it. When my kids started high school, it became clear to me that the times had changed since when I went to high school. I know. What the hell happened to you, Daniel? Right?
Emotional, damn it!
They're well graduated now. However, when they were in high school, they were allowed to carry their phones and use their phones in the classroom. So each year, I would have to make them some phone holders, of course. and those quickly became some bestsellers of mine. Here's the dimensions of my stock I'll be using. You need at least 3/4 of an inch thick, 2 3/4 of an inch in width, and I'm going to get this cut to 5 inches. Now from the right side of this piece, I'll pull in at 1 inch and 1 3/8 inches. And there's a couple different ways that you can get this dado notched out, but I'm going to take this to the miter saw and show you how to do it over there. So you're going to want a sacrificial piece that is the same width of the piece you're going to be notching up against your fence, and you'll take the piece you're notching and butt right into your backer. Make sure your blade depth is set where you want it, and I'm going to go half the distance of the thickness of my board, so that'll be at 3/8 of an inch deep. And I'm going to be turning my bevel to 10 degrees, and we'll make each pass nice and slow right at those marks we made. Now, what really made this a bestseller of mine is when I added the laser engraving personalization option. People just really love it when you put their name on something, let me tell you. Right now, as our project sits, it's pretty mid. So we're going to add a little bit of shape to it and take this thing to a whole nother level. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to add a slight round over to the front and then a big curve on the back side. And you'll be surprised at how much better this piece is going to look. If you don't have a bandsaw to make this happen, you can do this with a belt sander, or you can just do some carving. That right there is how you take a project from mid to badass. There's not a more intimidating experience than walking into your first day of school not knowing who anybody is in the classroom.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
I remember back in 5th grade when I walked in my classroom, every desk had a name tag on it, and we were able to quickly identify who everybody was. Now, say you've got some pallet wood laying around or some scrap wood that you need something to do with. Another project that does extremely well for me at my markets for the back to school and fall season are these big name tags. And they're super easy to make, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to make them. Let me show you just how easy it is to make these. I typically make mine out of some stock that's 2 3/4 in width by a 1/2 inch in thickness and at least 6 inches in length. What I'll do is I'll pull from the left and the right side to 3/4 of an inch. I'll bring those over to my miter saw and make sure that I'm at a 45-degree miter and cut right at those marks that I made. And I'll pull from that side that I just cut to 6 inches and make a square cut at that mark. Back over at the table saw, I'll pull down from those 2 cuts to 1 inch and mark center and punch those marks. I'll bring that piece to my vise and drill out a 3/4 inch hole with my Forstner bit. Get yourself some natural fiber rope, and I'm going to pull a strand off of this, and I'm just going to loop it through and then loop it back through the other side, right through itself. Pull tight, and I'll cut off any excess that I don't want. It's that easy. Not only are these name tags perfect for the classroom, but they're also great for wedding gatherings or family gatherings, any kind of big gathering where there's going to be a lot of family and a lot of people. These things always do well when I sell them in a set of 15, and I'll sell those 15 with the personalization options for $45 for 15. Sometimes people just want them blank. That way they can get the kids to do some crafts and fill in their name by themselves. If that's the case, I'll sell the 15 for 20 bucks. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I always remembered in high school and even when I was homeschooled that I always had my favorite set of pencils or pens. So project number 5, our final project, is going to be this awesome pen holder or pencil holder. Let me show you how quick and easy you can make this for yourself. For this, you'll want a piece that's at least 3/4 inches thick by 2 3/4 wide, once again. And I'm gonna get my piece cut. What is a standard pencil? Does anybody know what a standard pencil length is? Okay, I'm gonna get mine cut to 7.5 inches. Now, from the left and right side, I'll pull in at 5/16 of an inch. And from that left mark, I'll mark every 1/2 inch until I reach the very end. And that last 1/2 inch mark should wind up being right around your other 5/16 inch mark. Altogether, you should have 5 marks made on your piece. I'll bring this piece over to my router table, and I'm gonna get this router bit installed, and I'm pretty sure it's a CNC router bit. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but maybe it's just a slot bit, but this is what we're going to be using. And what I'll do is I'll line up each of my marks that I made with the very point of that router bit, with my router bit raised above my deck by 1/4 inch. And we'll start with that and see how that works out. Now for our very center mark, I did not route out that groove because I think I'm going to leave that blank. That way I can add a personalization option for somebody's name, right? And square edges, in my opinion, are boring, so I'm going to add a 22.5 degree miter halfway up from the bottom on both sides. And to finish this piece up, we're going to use our favorite finish, the finish for dummies. Shalakalaka. Well, rock stars, whether it's the teacher's apple, the name tag, the micro mountain, this sleek, elegant phone holder, or this badass pin holder, I really hope that you could draw some inspiration from these 5 projects. Until next time, get in your shop, have fun, and make some sawdust. Skull.